For years, Gilead has believed that its greatest enemies were inside its borders. They've spent countless resources hunting rebels, punishing handmaids, interrogating pearl girls, and tracking every whisper of resistance within their own walls. But what if their biggest threat isn't hiding inside Gilead at all? What if the person most responsible for Gilead's eventual destruction is standing safely outside its borders, patiently pulling strings while the regime slowly tears itself apart? And that person is June Osborne. As we head towards Season 2 of The Testaments, I think there's a very strong possibility that June's role is far bigger than many fans realize. In fact, I don't think she's simply fighting Gilead anymore. I think she's actively shaping its downfall. And the scary part for Gilead is that they may not even know it's happening. One thing that The Testaments has done brilliantly is show us the next generation of resistance. For years, The Handmaid's Tale focused on June's personal struggle for survival. But The Testaments feels different. This isn't just about surviving anymore. This is about winning. The biggest clue is Daisy. Think about it for a moment. Daisy didn't just accidentally find herself inside Gilead. She wasn't simply recruited by Mayday and sent on a random mission. Everything about her infiltration appears carefully planned. She had a fake identity. She had a believable backstory. She knew how to answer questions. She understood how to behave. She knew when to stay quiet. She knew when to lie. And, perhaps most importantly, she knew how to avoid attracting attention. Meanwhile, other infiltrators have been exposed, arrested, or killed. The florist got caught. Other Mayday operatives disappeared. Some resistance members never even made it past the eyes. Yet Daisy survived. That doesn't happen by accident. Someone trained her. Someone prepared her. Someone understood exactly how Gilead thinks. And who knows Gilead better than June? June spent years trapped inside that system. She knows how commanders behave. She knows how ants manipulate people. She knows how the eyes investigate threats. She knows where Gilead is strongest. But more importantly, she knows where Gilead is weakest. Season 2 could reveal that Daisy's entire mission was actually designed by June from the beginning. Not just entering Gilead, not just gathering information, but creating the exact conditions necessary for Gilead to collapse from within. And honestly, when you look at what's happening inside Gilead right now, it feels like the cracks are already forming. Look at Agnes. Agnes started this story as one of the most obedient girls in Gilead. She followed rules. She respected authority. She accepted her future, at least on the surface. But slowly, everything changed. She began questioning the system. She started noticing hypocrisy. She became curious about the outside world. She discovered the truth about Dr. Grove. She experienced betrayal. She experienced heartbreak. She experienced anger. And now she's becoming dangerous. That's exactly the kind of transformation that terrifies authoritarian regimes. Because Gilead can control obedience, it struggles to control awakening. What if June knew that all along? What if Daisy wasn't sent into Gilead merely to collect information? What if she was sent there to wake Agnes up? Because if Agnes truly is Hannah, June's daughter, then there may be something much bigger happening. Think about it. Who would be more dangerous to Gilead than a young woman raised inside the system who suddenly realizes the entire system is built on lies? Agnes understands things that outside rebels never will. She understands commanders. She understands the schools. She understands marriages. She understands how girls are controlled. She understands how wives are manipulated. She understands every weakness in Gilead's social structure. And once someone like Agnes turns against the system, she becomes incredibly valuable. That may be June's real objective. Not rescuing Agnes, transforming Agnes. There's a huge difference. Because a rescued daughter helps June. A revolutionary daughter helps destroy Gilead. Season 2 could push Agnes much further down that road, especially after everything she's been through. The betrayal involving Garth, the abuse she suffered, the loss of Becca, the realization that nobody in power intends to protect girls like her. All of that pain has to go somewhere, and pain often becomes rebellion. But Agnes may not be the only piece on June's chessboard. Let's talk about Aunt Lydia. One of the most fascinating parts of the Testaments is how Lydia has evolved. She's no longer simply the villain. She's something much more complicated. She's dangerous, strategic, patient, and incredibly intelligent. The biggest mistake Gilead's leadership may be making is underestimating her. Because while commanders believe they're controlling Lydia, she appears to be collecting information on everyone. Every secret, every scandal, every weakness, every crime. Knowledge is power, and Lydia has spent years gathering power. Now imagine if June and Lydia are indirectly working toward the same goal, not necessarily communicating openly, not necessarily trusting each other, but moving in the same direction. June attacks from outside. Lydia weakens the structure from inside. Eventually, those two forces collide, and Gilead gets caught in the middle. That's why I think Season 2 could become much bigger than a story about individual characters. It could become the beginning of an actual war. Not a military war, an information war. Think about how vulnerable Gilead really is. The regime survives because people believe in it, or at least pretend to. The moment enough people stop believing, everything starts falling apart. We've already seen signs of this. Young girls questioning authority, ants hiding secrets, commanders fighting each other, Mayday operating within the system, the eyes failing to stop infiltrators. Even ordinary citizens seem increasingly uncomfortable. The foundation is weakening. June may simply be accelerating something that was already inevitable. And here's where things get really interesting. What if Gilead's biggest problem isn't rebellion? What if it's succession? Many of Gilead's most powerful leaders are aging. They're dying. They're becoming vulnerable. But the next generation isn't nearly as loyal. Agnes questions authority. Becca questions authority. Daisy actively opposes authority. Even characters who seem obedient often hide doubts. Who exactly is supposed to carry Gilead into the future? Season 2 finally answer that question. And the answer might be nobody. That's what makes June's strategy so effective. She doesn't necessarily need to destroy Gilead herself. She just needs to help it destroy itself. Imagine a building with a cracked foundation. You don't have to knock it down. You simply wait. Then apply pressure at the right moment. Eventually gravity does the rest. That's what June may be doing. Every mission, every infiltrator, every secret operation, every piece of information smuggled out of Gilead. All of it may be part of a much larger strategy. Not to defeat Gilead tomorrow, but to guarantee it cannot survive long term. And honestly, that's a far more terrifying prospect for the regime. Because dictators know how to fight armies. They know how to crush protests. They know how to silence individuals. What they struggle to stop is an idea. The idea that freedom is possible. The idea that change is coming. The idea that fear no longer works. Once enough people believe those ideas, the countdown begins. And if Season 2 follows the path laid out by Margaret Atwood's story, then June's influence could become one of the most important factors in Gilead's collapse. Not because she's leading an army, not because she's launching attacks, but because she's planting seeds. Seeds inside Daisy, seeds inside Agnes, seeds inside Mayday, seeds inside the future itself. And by the time Gilead realizes what has happened, it may already be too late. Because the most dangerous enemy isn't the one standing at your gate. It's the one who convinced your own people to stop believing in you. And if this theory is correct, June Osborne isn't just fighting Gilead anymore. She's already won the first stage of the war. The only question now is how long it takes before the entire system finally comes crashing down. For years, Gilead has believed that its greatest enemies were inside its borders. They've spent countless resources hunting rebels, punishing handmaids, interrogating Pearl Girls, and tracking every whisper of resistance within their own walls. But what if their biggest threat isn't hiding inside Gilead at all? What if the person most responsible for Gilead's eventual destruction is standing safely outside its borders, patiently pulling strings while the regime slowly tears itself apart? And that person is June Osborne. As we head towards Season 2 of The Testaments, I think there's a very strong possibility that June's role is far bigger than many fans realize. In fact, I don't think she's simply fighting Gilead anymore. I think she's actively shaping its downfall. And the scary part for Gilead is that they may not even know it's happening.
One thing that the Testaments has done brilliantly is show us the